Hello, I'm Reverend Mike. Welcome to Missing the Point. In this series, I attempt to correct common misconceptions found in religion. Today's topic, how literal is the Bible? There are a lot of people who think the Bible is 100% absolutely literal, no questions asked. And if the Bible says to kill someone, you should kill them. If the Bible says to do something, they do it. And if they don't, they're going to hell. That's not what you're supposed to get out of the Bible. Sure, it does teach a morality code, but you know what? If you break things like the food laws, you might be less healthy for eating bacon, but you know what? You're not going to go to hell. And you shouldn't, I don't know, kill people because they like bacon. The Bible uses metaphors to teach wisdom. The six-day creation, the basis for resting on the Sabbath, was meant to teach you to rest 1 out of 7 days, to remain physically and mentally healthy. It is a well-documented fact that if you don't rest at least once a week, your health, both physical and mental, will deteriorate. The whole idea of a 6-day creation was to let you know that God rested 1 out of 7 days. Us lowly mortals should probably do the same. It's a message to keep us from overwork. In Genesis 2:17, God instructed Adam not to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for in that day he would surely die. But when he ate of the fruit, he didn't literally die that day. He was banished from Eden with Eve and lived to the ripe old age of 930. Now, one might argue that that's still a day in heaven, 1,000 years on earth. But even if you accept that explanation of why God didn't kill Adam right there on the spot, it doesn't alter the fact that it was still not literally a day. Not a literal day on earth. So obviously, when God said that Adam would die in that day, he was being figurative. He was trying to put fear in him so he would do as he was told. And maybe God meant it when he said that. But clearly, his anger was diminished, and he did not want to destroy that which he had created. 40 days of rain during the Great Flood, 40 years wandering the wilderness in Exodus. These were never supposed to be taken literally. This is the number of probation. The number of probation was often used to indicate a test of faith or punishment for doubting God. It was a deeper lesson for those who would seek out wisdom. I'm sure there was many days of rain. There could have been 39 days of rain. There could have been 56 days of rain. But these were rounded to 40 to give deeper meaning for the student that would look closer. Same thing with wandering in the universe. May have been 40 years. Maybe it was 41. Maybe it was 39. But it was rounded to 40 to intensify the lesson that we got out of the scriptures. It's the same with the symbol of the rainbow. God did not alter the way light works at the end of the flood. He didn't suddenly create the idea of refraction and prismatic effects. The symbol of the rainbow is to reassure children that rainstorms were not going to bring another catastrophe. It was supposed to make children feel better so they wouldn't be afraid every time there was a storm. because a parent or grandparent had told them, taught them the story of the Great Flood the previous night. Children would see a rainbow and be reassured of God's promise. No adult was expected to believe that rainbows didn't exist before the flood. But this has been lost over time. Other examples in the Bible that are clearly not literal are the four corners of the earth mentioned in Isaiah 11:12. Our spherical earth does not have corners. Not even the silly flat earth model has corners. It's a round disk. 1 Samuel 2:8 mentions foundations, also translated as pillars of the earth. Psalms 75:3 also mentions pillars. These are clearly metaphorical. If the earth literally stood on pillars, what are the pillars standing on? Are they standing on a giant turtle swimming through space? Much like that found in Hindu tradition? I don't think so. That's also metaphorical, was never meant to be taken literally. There are also a number of battles that are described in the Bible that never happened. These battles were presented to the reader not as literal history, but as a way to teach them wisdom. For instance, Jericho did not have impenetrable defensive walls described in the Bible during Joshua's time. The scriptures either describe an earlier battle altered to fit the narrative of Israel defeating its enemies under Joshua, or the siege was against a different city, and its name was changed to fit the narrative better. The subsequent defeat at the city of Ai may also be an example of a metaphor. Many people died in that battle because of the sin of one man, Achan. The death toll in the battle is probably not literal. It is presented as a lesson against acting against God. God may be at times a God of vengeance, but I seriously doubt that the reader of the scriptures was supposed to believe that God let hundreds, if not thousands of men die because of one person's sin. It was figurative. It's supposed to be a lesson. There are many, many other examples in the Bible of things that are not literal, that are figurative, that are metaphor. Jesus almost exclusively taught in metaphor, in parable. Once we realize the Bible is not completely literal, we can stop trying to use it as a history book or a science book. It is neither of these things. It has elements of those things in it. But so does the movie Back to the Future. It's got history in it. It's got science in it. But no one is trying to say that historians or scientists are wrong because of something they saw in the movie, because it is not a documentary and was never meant to be one. Now, the Bible may not be as fictional as Back to the Future, but it is still not supposed to be a history book or a science book. It's meant to teach wisdom. It's not a school book. If theologians had not repeatedly stood in the way of progress, we'd likely have cures for many diseases, like the ones that are the result of organ degeneration, like heart disease and diabetes. Let me explain why I believe this. If you mention the word stem cell, Christians typically shut their brains off because they believe that the only source of stem cells is unborn children, fetuses. And that is not the case. Every single healthy birth has an umbilical cord that is discarded. That umbilical cord contains stem cells. But instead of trying to outlaw things like abortion, Christians shut their brains off and try to shut down research into stem cells, even though there are ways to harvest stem cells that are absolutely harmless. Like I said, every healthy birth in the world has an umbilical cord that is discarded. That umbilical cord contains stem cells. If theologians didn't stand in the way of stem cells because they believed, because one or two people told them that the only way to get stem cells was to kill babies, we would have research into cures for degenerative diseases. Have you lost somebody to heart disease or diabetes? There's very good evidence to indicate that injecting stem cells into an organ that's damaged can regenerate it partially or completely. There's a case of a man who had a heart attack. His heart was injected with stem cells, and within like a month, I believe, he was running a marathon. That's how well those cells regenerated his heart. If we take everything that somebody says, the Bible says, literally, then we are obstructing our own progression in science and in history. The Bible and other religious texts have a lot to offer us. And too many times people use the Bible, oh, it literally says this or it literally says that, so we should hate people, we should kill people. No, that is not what the Bible is for. That is not what any religious text is for. Maybe I'm naive and hoping that people will give up on their ignorance and the teachings of man. But this book does not advocate hate. It does not advocate intolerance. It does not advocate the destruction of science or of medicine or of history. That is not what this book is. It contains a lot of wisdom. It can teach us a lot. But using it because it literally is supposed to say something, it's not right. Well, I hope you didn't mind my rant too much there toward the end. I get pretty passionate when people use the Bible in a way that it is not meant to be used. People say that it literally says this or literally says that, and it doesn't. It is filled with imagery, filled with parable, metaphor. So before we use the Bible as an excuse to hate somebody or destroy something, maybe we should think twice about whether or not that part of the Bible was meant to be a metaphor, a parable, was meant to teach us something. Because I can guarantee you, the reason why it's there isn't to teach hate or intolerance. It's there to teach wisdom. And we just have to look past prejudice to see the truth. Thank you for watching this video. Please click like or dislike. A lot of you are probably going to click dislike, but that's okay. Subscribe if you want to see more. Feel free to comment or ask a question below. Your question might even be the subject of future videos. I usually end videos by saying, be good to each other. We're all in this together, because it's true. We need to work together to make our world better. And that's not through hate or intolerance. We have to work together. We have to work together in a positive way, because we need to make this world a better place. We can't just wait for God to do it for us. Remember, God helps those who help themselves. And that includes making our world better. Thank you. Goodbye.